All right. So I think we'll get started. We have a good enough group here already. Hello, Voltaire. Thank you for your response. Regulatory science, which falls under pharmacy and school. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Yeah. So if you want to introduce yourself in the chat, go ahead. Um, this could be like your first start in the networking series today, right? So welcome to the fourth installment of Harnessing AI. So for today's topic is networking and informational interviewing. So for this particular presentation, we're going to focus on how to use AI to effectively, streamline your networking outreach. I know that sometimes networking can be quite challenging. Where do I start? What do I say? What are some questions that I can ask, right? Is it time consuming? So a lot of things come into play, right, when it comes to networking, but with the way technology is moving nowadays, you don't really have to spend that much time trying to figure out how you can move around and finding these people that can essentially connect you to interests that you have, right? Figuring out what does this current field look like? What are the prospects of it, right? So we'll go into that. And as well, how to strategize, how to create structure in your approach so you don't feel like you're all over the place, right? Where do I start? Um, so the webinar today is going to be presented by me. I'm a career advisor. My name is Julio Rodriguez, and as well, Ella Ray Columbres. Did you want to introduce yourself?
Hi everyone. Yes, so I'm also one of the career advisors here at the USC Career Center. So yeah, Julio and I are going to be doing this presentation with you today.
Awesome. So we will go through the series and Ella will take over from here and
Oh, sorry.
sorry.
Yes, so again, in the chat, if you just came in and joined us, please introduce yourself and your program of study in the chat to see kind of where everyone is from. But yes, as Julio mentioned, this is the fourth and final workshop in the AI series. As you can see, we've already completed the first three with, in partnership with VMOC. Unfortunately, those series or those workshop are not recorded. However, the Job Search 2.0 LinkedIn plus Chat GPT Secrets Revealed workshop was recorded and is now uploaded on our on our YouTube page. So please feel free to visit our YouTube channel and watch that specific workshop. It is an hour and 20 minutes long, but it is very, very informative. We had a guest speaker named Jeremy Schiffling. He's one of the most sought out speakers for AI, Chat GPT, and LinkedIn right now. And in that workshop, he pretty much shows you what recruiters see on the back end of LinkedIn and gives you some strategies and how to leverage AI to be on that top of the list, when you're making your LinkedIn profile. So please, again, sometime today, go ahead and explore our AI page where you could also, again, see some of our resources as well as the recording for the second workshop from this series. Um, but Julio, if you can go ahead and start off with our icebreaker. Just keep in mind, we are going to try to interact with you during this webinar. So just have the chat, feature pulled up so you can help us answering our icebreaker questions as well.
Thanks, Ella. Yeah, so going off the prompt that you're seeing here, based on, so go on the emoji box in the chat function. Oh, money. All right, Philip, money. That's a good one. So everybody else, if you can just chime in with how would you react based on an emoji when it comes to networking? What are your feelings towards it? Um, I would like to see a couple more responses so we can kind of get an idea of this particular topic. Okay. Yeah, I agree with you, Maggie. Sometimes that's how it can feel like, you're just kind of feeling like dizzy, trying to figure it out, how to talk to these individuals that you don't know who might be miles away, who are probably crying. Sometimes, yeah, sometimes I feel like crying too. I mean, even even myself, when I feel like I still have to network within this campus with other professionals. So sometimes having to reach out to somebody in a different department, I'm like, oh my God, what do I say? Right. So I agree. Like I think these are some of the things that goes through our head when we're trying to connect with others that we're interested in, right? So these are all valid answers, right? Based on the emojis, right? The power of emojis nowadays that they can typically highlight how we're feeling without having to say those words, right? So thank you to those that really that contributed to those responses. And we'll have a couple more hopefully interactive pieces that where we can share some emojis throughout. Um, so going on to the next one, right? So what is networking? So by definition, networking is a process of building and maintaining professional relationships to exchange information and discover opportunities. It helps you expand your career options, meet industry leaders, and learn about roles, right? So again, building and maintaining professional people that can help you understand the field they might be interested in, right? Maybe you just got here to college. Maybe you're a transfer student. Maybe you're switching careers. Maybe you're trying to figure out, right, what is a good source of information for you to start going into that particular direction, right? So networking can help you with that, right? Helping you get that information that could be pivotal in terms of what does this particular field look like? What do I need? How can I break in? What are some steps that I can start taking that this particular person can help me understand, right? Um, with networking as well, you could essentially find out how did they get their feet wet, as I like to say a lot. How did they get their breakthrough, right? So sometimes it takes a couple steps to really get the ball rolling. Um, so where can you network? Networking can be done various areas, but in terms of the tech space, right, in the tech area, we're gonna focus today on showing you how you could do it through Career Shift, LinkedIn, and Trojan Network. I think these were highlighted on alphabetical order, so we're not gonna go based on Career Shift, LinkedIn, Trojan Network. Ella will talk about Career Shift in some of her slides later on, but I'll be focusing on Trojan Network and LinkedIn. So I hope that for the most part, does everybody that's here do they know what Trojan Network is? Have they signed up? I'd like to see that on the chat. If you know what Trojan Network is. Yes, okay. Isabel, thank you. Yes, I have no idea. Okay. No. Okay, no, okay, great. So yeah, so the Trojan Network is basically like our version of LinkedIn to a degree. And so it's catered for USC alumni. And you'll see that in a little bit. So what this does, it allows, you to connect with Trojans, other alumni that came to USC who went particularly to areas of interest in your career, right? So this kind of helps you not have to go through you still should go through LinkedIn, but Trojan Network can at least help you find alumni that you can relate to within that came here, right? That'll help that connection where you can say, hi, I'm a fellow Trojan. I'm interested in this company. Let's say it's Deloitte. I see that you're at Deloitte within this role. I would like to connect, get to know you, right? So we're trying to help grow that organically. And then that can essentially become like an exercise where you can then take those networking, approaches into like LinkedIn and maybe even out into the real world through career fairs, events, and others and other forms of connecting with those that you might be interested in. But yeah, so more to come on that. And I think Ella will go on after this one.
Yes, thank you, Julio. So again, Julio mentioned that we are going to be covering some of the platforms, again, Career Shift, LinkedIn, and Trojan Network during this workshop. But I just do want to mention that there are also other ways to find networking opportunities. So networking happens in many different environments. It's not just, limited to formal events or online, but it's also available in casual settings as well. So I'm curious if you guys can pull up the chat and list some of like the other places or platforms that you can network, please go ahead and do that. We're gonna try to do this activity where I'll count down from three to one, and then I'll say waterfall, and then you guys are gonna enter your answer all at the same time. So it has kind of this cascading waterfall effect in the chat. So I'll give you guys some time to kind of brainstorm some ideas where you can network. Again, that's not limited to online or just career fairs. What are other, again, places or platforms that you can network? So take some time. I'll give you guys maybe 30 more seconds. And then again, I'll count down from three. And then when I say waterfall, let's all, press enter and see all of your answers in the chat. I know Carolyn already started, it would say everywhere. So yes, let's be a little bit more specific, mention specific workshops or events or whatnot. And then we'll share that with everyone else who's in this workshop today. But Okay, go ahead. I'll go ahead and count down from 3, 2, 1. Go ahead and waterfall. All right. Thank you, everyone. There's a lot of responses here. Again, Caroline started us off. We're saying everywhere, but yes, you can even network in a party, whether this is like a casual party, a professional or formal party, finding people that you probably have similar interest, industry, or experience. Those are people that you can also network with in a party. Same thing for your class, obviously, especially if you guys are taking the same classes, especially in the same major, then also networking with your peers, classmates, and whatnot are really, ways to network as well. Someone said football game. Says again, I mentioned that's also a possible way to network with someone. Perhaps you're sitting by someone who's like, oh wait, like you overheard them talking about, work, and then that's one of the companies that you really want to work with. So, having your elevator pitch ready and talking to them, networking with them, and building that connection in a football game, that's also very possible. But if you guys look through the chat, there's a lot more places that other people also mention. Yes, office hours, conferences, industry events, clubs, and even just your mutual friends, networking with the people you already know. So that includes professors, family, friends, supervisors, mentors. Those are people that you can all reach out to and network with. So again, thank you so much for participating in that. But um, again, just a background. Again, industry conferences, workshops also allow you to engage with professionals and learn latest industry trends. So, if this is more of a formal setting that we're talking about. But we also have USC specific events like Trojan Talks that give you access to alumni and professionals who are eager to share their experiences and advice. So if you are, on top of or updated with our events or receiving our newsletters, we do have a lot of organizations and companies who are coming to campus and talk about, their organizations and company and perhaps what they are currently hiring for. We also have recruiting events hosted by the career centers here at USC. So we have career fairs every fall and spring semester where you can directly connect with potential employers, explore job opportunities and whatnot. But again, we also mentioned those informal events like networking mixers, parties, football games, and just having your elevator pitch ready is really important so that anywhere or everywhere you are, if you find someone that you can connect and network with, you already have that elevator pitch ready. So the last thing I want to share from this slide is just remember to take advantage of the USC Career Center events, especially our career fairs and on-campus recruitment events, since again, those are exclusive opportunities for USC students. But for today's presentation, again, we are going to focus on online resources and how to reach out to people who are, you don't have prior connections with. Just in the chat, yes or no, do you guys know the difference between warm networking or cold networking? Is this something that you've heard before? So yeah, in the chat, do you know what cold networking is? Yes or no? No, okay. Yes, so some people don't really know the difference between cold and warm networking, but essentially, like what I mentioned before, you can network with the people that you already know, meaning professors, family, friends, supervisors, mentors. Those are your current connections. So we call them like warm network, people that you already have prior connections with. When we're talking about cold networking, this is reaching out to professionals or companies that you don't have prior connections with. And again, cold networking is really, really important, especially today, because you don't want your first interaction with an employer, a company, or an organization to be just, your application with your resume and cover letter. You want to be able to network with the people who are currently employed in that company, recruiters or hiring managers within that target company, and start, introducing yourself, getting to know them before you even apply, because everyone is so like qualified for the positions that they're applying for. Everyone is applying for the same job, but now how are you going to stand out from the rest of that the candidates? And that is, having that prior connection before you even apply for the company. So essentially, that is what cold networking means. And just based on research, cold networking can really double the chance of you landing an internship or a full-time role. So when we're thinking about like applying for an internship, you're more likely to land that internship if you cold network with someone, within that company first. Additionally, cold networking also can lead to more merit-based internships, because if you are reaching out to like your professors, your uh, previous supervisors, you've already established that previous relationship, and sometimes that's an advantage. But with cold networking, they are really looking at your skills, your experiences, and your ability to, fulfill that job without all of this, uh, like emotional connections that you've had with them previously. You can highlight what you're good at, and they kind of just like see you, whatever you want to share with them, in terms of your skills. The last thing I want to share about just data about cold networking is that you're more likely to convert your internship that you gain from cold networking to a full-time role compared to an internship that you gain from a warm network. So just kind of something to keep in mind, because this is kind of the baseline of what we're going to be talking about today: how to find people that you don't have prior connections with, and how to reach out to them, and how to maintain that network. So hopefully that was pretty clear in terms of what networking is in general. Before I pass it back to Julio in a bit, I do want to kind of give this disclaimer. If you are networking for job searching or internship searching, just remember that this can take a long time. Sometimes it can take up to 6 months or more to land the right role, to find, the internship that you want to apply for. But it's just really important for you to dedicate some time and utilize your resources. Again, you have us, the Career Center, for advising appointments. You have our events to register and join to meet those employers. But just don't be discouraged during this journey, because again, everyone's at their own pace, everyone's doing their own thing. So just try to stay positive, and also be kind to yourself, especially if you're reaching out and networking to people that you don't know. Sometimes you're not going to get any responses, and sometimes that might only 20% of the people that you actually reach out to responds back to you. So again, just know that that might be the reality that you might face, once you start doing your networking and job searching. But again, maintain a positive mindset to help you stay motivated and resilient throughout this entire time. All right, so that's kind of like all of the background info that we want to cover before we officially get started. But just show of hands in like the chat, just based on your understanding with cold networking and just like networking background in general, how do we feel about this? Thumbs up, thumbs down. If you have any questions at this moment, feel free to send them in the chat right now, and then we'll go ahead and move forward with the rest of that presentation. All right, perfect. If there's no questions at this moment, I'll go ahead and pass it back to Julio, and he'll go and talk about the lab method or the lab list. Go ahead, Julio.
Okay. I think I'm just gonna go backpedal a little bit. I think Shia had a question. Did you still have that question? You could write it on the chat. If I'll get to it. So if you write it, I'll get back to it. Okay. Okay. But yeah. So talking about earlier, right? In terms of how to structure your approach with networking, right? Like, where do I start? How do I go about this, right? So we came across Steve Dalton. You might not have heard of his name. If you haven't, we just learned about him not so long ago. But if you have, you probably know that he's really good at this networking stuff. So I would suggest, get familiar with him, either watch his YouTube videos, whatever he had, maybe buy a book. And so the idea here is that he created this approach called the LAMP method. And here it's kind of to help you have that structured approach of how can you network, how can you reach out to individuals without being all over the place, scattered, stretched thin, losing, information about where have you left off, right? So each letter means something. So LAMP starts with L, means creating a list through using ChatGPT, generating those companies. Then A would suggest alumni, reaching out to alumni, either through Trojan Network, LinkedIn, or any other form of that you can. And then motivation, what excites you about that particular company? What is your motivation about that? Like, again, you would rank that based on the list that you create. And then the postings, right? How active are these individuals that are in this company, right? So Ella and I will talk about different areas here. I'll start with list and alumni, and then Ella will go about motivation and postings. So we'll start with the list. So we'll start with the L, using AI to supercharge your code networking. So I'm gonna ask somebody in the chat, give me your field of interest. So whoever's first, I'll take that response and we'll put it in ChatGPT. Ella will shift her screen from their optical engineering. Awesome, great. So Ella, if you can type in the prompt that you had on that slide, can you list? So what Ella's gonna do is she's gonna ask ChatGPT to list 40 companies within optical engineering. And the idea here is for you to see what companies come out from this search and then see, okay, maybe you know the top two, but did you know the other ones that are associated with it, right? So Byung Chang, I'm sorry if I butchered your name. I'm gonna call on you, so you better unmute yourself because I'm gonna ask you a question. And I want you to tell me if any of these companies looked familiar and which ones didn't, right? And the idea here is for you to be honest and say, okay, maybe these are companies that I never heard of. Maybe these are companies that I could essentially target, and that'll give you an idea of where you can expand your outreach. Okay, so we have our 40. Did it populate already entirely? Cool. All right. So you see 40 companies. And the idea here is that, oh, Brandon. Okay. Thank you, Brandon. So we'll unmute you right now. And so the idea behind the number 40 is that initially it was 100. But come on, 100 companies, that's a lot, right? It's kind of like an extreme, takes too much time. And then it got boiled down to like about 10 to 15, but then it was too small of a number. You run through that list and you maybe don't have any hits. But 40 seems to be a good number where you kind of have that balance between 15 and 100, where you can have a good amount of companies that you can research, look into, um, that could give you perhaps leads, right? So if we could unmute Brandon, and if we could go back up, Ella, and see, we can ask Brandon if he knew of any of these companies.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So first two I've heard. Sixth one, yes. 10, 12, 13, 15. Let's see, 21, 22. Not in late 20s and 30s.
Okay, fair, right? I mean, I think at least you have quite knowledge about the companies that you're interested in, right? But I'm pretty sure you're caught maybe by surprise about how many companies are associated with optical engineering, right? So let's just say, okay, if you see the ones that you are familiar with, but maybe ones that you aren't familiar with, which one would be one that you probably just are curious about learning a little bit more from this list?
I'm not sure like what's the ordering of the companies is for. Like, I don't know, maybe it depends on the popularity or depends on like how extensive the optical engineers are used in the industry, but maybe like top 10 perhaps.
Okay.
Like, mhm.
So let's just say, okay, so we're not gonna, so yeah, so like this is just kind of an example, right? So let's
Mhm.
just say, let's go with, I think you're not familiar with number five, right? So one thing
Mhm.
that you can do, right? So off of this five, another point of this as well is that with ChatGPT, right? It's not like Google. If you were to type in this command to Google, give me the top whatever companies, right? It's just gonna give you a bunch of lists. You have to visit each list individually. That's time consuming. You get bored and you lose track of whatever you're doing, right? The cool thing about ChatGPT, and maybe, I mean, there's other AI search engines now, right? The idea here is that this creates a conversation like, response. So you can continue asking it to give you information. So for example, if you say, okay, I know one, two, and the other ones you mentioned, right? But what is number four about? Genoptic, right? So one thing that you can do is ask ChatGPT, can you elaborate on number four, Genoptic, right? And so what it's gonna do then, it's gonna give you more information about that, right? In a shorter time span than you having to go to Google and find their information and then repeat that over and over again, right? So that's the idea here, that it's going to allow you to gain more insight about what they're doing. Again, when we're looking for jobs and opportunities and networking for alumni, our first thing should be researching the company, knowing what they're about, right? So typically we go to LinkedIn and all that stuff. But when you have like AI and it's doing this for you in a shorter time frame, it's going to save you a lot of time of having to go through each one individually, clicking links and all that stuff, right? So as you see, yes, it can be a little bit overwhelming with information, so that's where maybe where prompting comes in hand, right? You can ask it, can you give me more information on Genoptic, but keep it concise, right? So be savvy with how you use ChatGPT and any of these services, because yeah, it can throw you a lot of information, which is good, but it can be too much as well, right? Um, but yeah, so this is one way, right, that you can continue to replicate this search about what companies you might be interested in, right? So yeah, thank you for that, Brandon. We
Thank you.
might call on you again, right? So stay tuned.
Okay, cool.
Thank you. So we'll touch upon this again. So if you want to go back to that, right? So again, create your list 40. If you think it's 40 is too much, let's bring it down to 30, right? Up to you. The idea is for you to have a structured approach to this, right? So let's move on to the next one. So then now that we've checked off the list, I think that's probably one of the easiest pieces in the networking aspect here. So the next one would be targeting alumni, right? So here, what we would want to do then is start using some of those networking portals, such as Trojan Network and LinkedIn, to see if any of the companies that were generated from ChatGPT, do we have a match on Trojan Network or on LinkedIn, right? Maybe we can find individuals there, right? So we'll just go with Thor Labs, just to keep it simple for this time, right? So if you want to go into Trojan Network first, Ella, and then we can start going through there, right? Um, so let's go to the homepage real quick, Ella, for the Trojan Network. Yeah, just go to the home. Yeah. Yeah, so I saw that some of you hadn't, you guys haven't, so those that haven't registered. So if you go to Trojan Network USC, you should be able to find that link, sign up, it's free, right? So this will be your opportunity to, register for this resource. And again, it's kind of like LinkedIn. If you have a LinkedIn, it makes it easy for you to transfer your LinkedIn profile on here. And so typically this would be your home page where your name, your picture could be uploaded. You could even have an introduction video. There are jobs that are listed here, some discussion boards, all this stuff to make it easier for you to get on this website, on this site, so you can start interacting with alumni, networking, so more opportunities for you to find more resources. So yeah, great. So hopefully you can start doing this. After this or during right now, right? So you can stay kind of on pace with us. So you got your home screen, you got your networking, and you got other tabs. So just for the sake of time, we're just gonna go into the networking piece, which we are right here, right? So as you can see, there's 20,000 active users and it's growing every time. So with each class, each year, this number continues to grow. So here, if you see where the search, the little thing, what's it called? The magnifying glass, if you go there, that's where we'll start looking for individuals or companies, right? So if we put Thor Labs, let's just paste it there, Ella. Let's see if anything comes out, right? Okay, so we don't have a hit there. So what does that mean? Is it the end of the world? No, it's not, right? So maybe we look at other keywords. Maybe we go to optical engineering, or maybe we just keep it simple with engineering, right? To see what type of hits we get based on the Trojan network. So again, the Trojan Network is all USC students, so it's not like a LinkedIn where you have access to a bunch of alumni, right? So the idea here is that we can use Trojan Network to kind of have you take your first steps in finding who's here organically within this compound of the school, right? That you can create those connections, help you maybe connect and have those discussions as you go along in finding these opportunities. Were there any filters for that, Ella?
Yeah, so just to add on to what Julio was saying, again, you can use the search bar, but you can also search by industries. There's already preloaded industries on here, so you can only select what is already listed. But again, you can use the search bar if you're looking for a specific industry that is not listed. The other thing is under the more features or more filter features, you can also select and type in what major you're graduating from. So then it would only generate alumni and current students who are in the same program as you, and you get to explore, let's say, let's say engineering, right? And then apply, and then you get to kind of see who are in those in that industry, and you get to see, you know, professional experience, some position titles that they've held in the past. And again, directly on Trojan Network, you can message them on here and, you know, start networking with them. So again, it's the USC version of LinkedIn pretty much.
Yeah, so that could be your first step, right? And like, okay, like they're talking about creating connections based on my school or whatever it might be. So this could be the first one, right? So now we can go to LinkedIn. Let's just say we go to LinkedIn with Thor Labs, right? If you want to look up Thor Labs. And so if Thor Labs has again, one of the things about knowing if the company is big, small, right? Typically, the LinkedIn can be very good at showing that based on their employee size. So if you go into their profile, Ella, so we can see that, you'll be able to see what they're about, right? They have about 1,000 to 5,000 employees. You can see what their company's about. But another aspect about this is, okay, we went through Trojan Network. We didn't see anybody that worked at Thor Labs, but maybe they do work at USC, right? But maybe they just didn't disclose it on the website, right? So what if we go to the People tab on LinkedIn, right? Here in this, so they have 1,400, I'm gonna just round it up, 1,300 associated members. In the search employees by title, keywords, or school, this is something that you can do over and over with other companies you might be interested in that are generated from that list of 40 or 30, whatever you choose to use, number you choose to use, where you can start looking for those alumni that perhaps worked there or have worked there in the past, right? So you could either go by school, which I would suggest going by school, or you could use by title that you're interested in, right? If typically you go by the title of the position you're looking for, you might get different hits based on other school that they might came from, right? So if you use USC, it will help maybe generate a little bit more of that, right? So here we only have one person. So can we see, right? So this is just one example, right? It varies by company. So if this is somebody that is working there, why not reach out to them, right? Send them a message, connect with them, try to get those informational interviews. And again, we'll show you a little bit later what those look like, right? How can you structure those out? And so the beauty about that is that once you have that list, then you kind of know where you want to go, right? You kind of want to, okay, I've done this company, check. I've done this company, check, right? Have I gone through the people section on Trojan Network? Have I gone through the people section on LinkedIn? Right? It just now you're knowing where you're at in the process, right? Maybe one week you're like, I'm gonna do the first 5 from that list that I have, and then see where I'm at. And then with the Trojan Network, I think another cool thing about it, this is still my slide. Yeah, right. So one thing about the Trojan network, if you want to go back real quick, Ella, to the Trojan network, is that it is when you're trying to connect with somebody, let's say you do find somebody on the Trojan network that you want to connect with. If you go, can you go back to the main page where the network? So just go to the network. So just reset the page, please. So let's say, and this is just an example, right? Max Esquivel. If you see somebody that let's say you get a hit, right? And you're like, yeah, I want to connect with them. If you click that Let's Connect button, if you can click on it, Ella. Here, there's already preloaded templates for you. There's a bio on the left-hand side. And so the idea with these preloaded templates is that it'll give you an idea of how you can create the conversation, right? So you're like, where do I start with this? But I wouldn't want you to just send this out, right? I would want you to at least customize it, give it your own flair, so they know that it wasn't just a copy and paste, right? You want to try to make that connection still as genuine as possible. And you can use this over and over again, but again, you would have to tweak the wording, make sure that you understand who your target is. Where did the alumni go? What is their current role? How do you relate to them? Can you connect with them, right? So that can be a little bit of the time consumption there. But again, maybe using AI to help you with that in terms of using ChatGPT. Can you help? This is the person, this is their information. Can you help me create a concise message to reach out to them? So that could be one way, right, to save you that time. So with LinkedIn, Trojan Network, again, as Ella mentioned earlier, the response rate typically is about 20% when we're cold networking. So we just have to manage expectations that yes, even though you reach out to 40 people, let's just say, maybe I'm terrible at math. Let's just say 20% is what? 15? I don't know. Where my math majors don't chop off my head. But you know, you might not get all the hits. But the idea is that you had at least a more strategic vision of who you wanted to target. And Ella will Ella will talk about this in terms of like postings and motivation and all that stuff, which will kind of help you guide you along that way as well.
Thank you, Julio. So yes, again, like Julio mentioned, you can use both Trojan Network and LinkedIn to find these alumni. And again, here's just kind of like an overview on how to go back to the people's page. So if you need to screenshot this for your own, instructions, then feel free. But on here, we also mentioned, again, utilizing ChatGPT to draft your personalized message when sending a connection. So for example, once, maybe you want to network with this individual, you can go ahead and click more, connect, add a note, and then those tailored messages right here. This tends to have a limited number of characters, so you can ask ChatGPT to tailor you, an outreach message that's 200 characters to this individuals. But this is just kind of like an example to get you started with whether or not you want to use ChatGPT to draft that message. But yeah, thank you, Julio, for showing us how to do that. Moving on to the next part of the LAMP list. So this is going to be the motivation and posting. So again, as Julio mentioned, having the list of companies that you already that's within your industry will help you kind of figure out okay, which companies do I want to prioritize. So using the LAMP method or the LAMP list, there is kind of this template that Steve Dalton recommends that you guys use. You can tailor this to however you want it to look like, but essentially this is like the most basic structure of like the template to keep yourself organized. So inputting, the company names on under the list section, and then putting yes or no, or even the number of alumni that you found within that company would be helpful. So for example, if we go back to the list of companies here, let's say you generated top 10 instead of top 40, and then you look at Trojan Network and LinkedIn for alumni within these companies, you maybe found one for Thor Labs and then maybe two for Edmund Optics and so on. Just kind of, again, keeping yourself organized with this type of spreadsheet. In the motivation part, this is kind of understanding what the company is about. So Julio earlier mentioned, asking ChatGPT for more information and elaborating on specific companies, you can ask specifically like, what is, Denoptic about? What is their employee reviews. So you can use ChatGPT to get you started with that, and we'll talk more about that later. But essentially, in the motivation part, you kind of want to rank or score the companies depending on how motivated you are or how excited you are to apply for that specific company. As you can see in the example, there's five, so you can do 1 to 5, five being the one that you want to apply to the most, one being the least, or you can also do 1 to 10. So you can kind of tailor that depending on your personal like rubric for a company. So if you just kind of want to see a basic rubric structure, this is kind of what we recommend. Like three, number one, strong fit with your values, goals, and career growth. Moderate, some alignment, but it's not your top choice. Low, it's maybe a safety company, something that you're not completely opposed to applying, but it's not your priority at all. And then zero helps you figure out, okay, like this company, I don't even want to spend time researching or finding opportunities within that company. So this, having or focusing on the companies and your alignment with their values and just like their general work environment will again help you figure out what is in line for me and who do I need to network with that specific company to find more opportunities. Does that make sense? All right. So now, once you have the list of companies, generated by ChatGPT, you can figure out, okay, how do I know that this is actually the right company for me? So there's like 4 things that we encourage you to really look at in terms of figuring out if it's the right match for you. Number one, what are their values? Do they align with your own personal values, your professional goals and objectives? What do they emphasize in their missions, visions, and again, objectives as a company? Growth, what are the opportunities for development? Are you able to kind of go up the corporate ladder as part of this? Are there any like professional development opportunities that are offered to employees within this company? So again, kind of thinking about what your personal objectives and goals are and figuring out, okay, is this company going to allow me to get there? What help and resources do they offer that would help me get where I want to be? So again, depending on your rubric for the motivation part of the lab list, then you can kind of tailor that according to your own preferences. The next one would be reputation, right? So sometimes big name companies, you're like, oh, I want to go there. I want to apply for that company because I know that they're like the leading company in this industry. But you want to be realistic as well. Like even if they're the top company, there might be some drawbacks, working for a big name company. So what are the employees saying regarding like their reviews? So Glassdoor, Indeed, and other platforms can help you kind of do that research. And even Reddit, sometimes, people are really honest on Reddit. If they're an employee, it's anonymous, and they, share what they felt about that specific company when they were employed there. But also again, industry fit. Is this kind of ChatGPT help you with that process already? This is what I'm interested in. Again, do they have anything within this company that can help me again get to my professional goals? Uh, and as I mentioned here, AI can streamline the research and ranking process by helping you quickly gathering and summarizing those data. So with the motivation part of the lab method, that it can also be done with ChatGPT. So again, maybe asking ChatGPT out of the 40 list that we have here, what is the top 10 leading companies? And then you can ask ChatGPT, all right, within the top 10, can you provide me a basic overview of what the company entails? And then from there, you still want to make sure that you double check the info that ChatGPT is giving you. So if it talks about Genoptic this way, is this actually correct? Let me just double check their website. Let me just look at their about section in their company. So again, ChatGPT will help you get to information faster, but don't rely solely on it, and still cross-check, cross-reference, and do your own research to make sure that you're actually getting the accurate information. All right, going back here. All right, so the next thing that I want to talk about is, job posting. So now that you know which companies that you want to apply for, okay, like you're motivated to apply to the top 3 list on here, and you found 5 employees or 5 alumni that you can connect with within this company. Now where do you go from there? So now you want to prioritize by the according to like the company that's actually hiring at the moment. So now you want to do your research by, again, prioritizing the companies that are actively hiring at this moment. So some of the platforms that we want to highlight, that you can access as a USC student, are Handshake, Career Shift, and Going Global. You guys should be familiar with Handshake now. That's how you schedule or registered for this event. But if you want me to just quickly show you how that looks like, you can go to jobs, and then that's where you can kind of find the organizations and companies that are currently hiring. So you can put the company name on here, or even go directly to employers and look at, again, the company or the employer, and you can look if they're currently hiring within that company. So that is one way, again, using Handshake, a platform that you already use as a student. The next one that I want to share is Career Shift. So Career Shift is actually both a job search platform as well as a networking platform, and I'll walk you through that in a little bit. But again, Handshake for general job posting, Career Shift for more tailored job searches, and Going Global for international roles. So if you're interested in like foreign opportunities, or like foreign opportunities, then Going Global would be a great job search portal for you. But to show you how to access these resources, let me just go back to Handshake. So this is your homepage. Once you log in as a student, you want to go to Career Center. And then this is how you make appointments with us, but I'm not going to go through that. But you want to go to resources to find all of the resources that you have available to you as a student. So you want to go to University Career Resources, or University Career Center resources, and we've organized it in different categories. The one in particular that I want to highlight is both the job search and networking resources. So let's just click on one of those, and then as you can see, we can find Career Shift here. So Career Shift, again, you have access to this as a USC student. Just make sure you do the single sign-on. And essentially what it does, it compiles all opportunities online. Sometimes it will redirect you to LinkedIn, uh, other job search platforms, or directly to the company website's application page. But there is a lot of opportunities here, so sometimes that can also be an issue. So if you're too specific on your search, it might not generate anything. If you're too broad, it might generate everything, and it's still, as confusing to look through. So just, again, be very patient when you're working with the filter features. But I do want to show how this looks like. So once you log in, you click this, it'll log you in. Make sure you, again, you do the single sign-on, because without the single sign-on, you're not going to be able to access the features, because these are paid features if you are not USC affiliated. All right, so from here, now that you know the list of companies, again, that you want to apply for, you want to go to the companies tab, click search, and then let's pick one of the companies here, right? Let's say Genoptic, search company. All right, so here we have, I'm assuming that this is the right one. You can click company details, and you can find more information about this. Hold on, let me actually, yeah. So you can find more information, their website, and also just how many people are working within this company. If you look at company jobs, this would list all of the companies, or all of the positions that that company is currently hiring for. So as you can see, there's kind of like multiple Genoptic uh, like companies. So just kind of double checking that again, right? But it seems like they are currently hiring for this. Is it related to engineering right now? I would say maybe not. So then maybe Genoptic is not going to be one of the priority companies that you apply to at the moment. So kind of doing the same process for every single company that you have in your final list would again help you prioritize. Okay, here's my top 10, here's the 5 that's actually hiring. Let me focus my networking and job search application with those 5 companies. I do want to share some other kind of features within Career Shift. So as I mentioned, this is also a networking platform. I'm just gonna put one of our employer partners as an example on here. So let's say enterprise mobility, you want to apply for, for this company. Let's see. Let me go back here actually. So you get to learn more about the company. Depending on how big the company is, Career Shift can also provide you some competitors. So if any of the ChatGPT list fail to share some of these competitors, then you can also start viewing those companies as well. Again, company jobs will generate all of the positions that they're are currently hiring for. But if you go back to company contacts, it'll also generate basically everyone who's currently working in that company. So again, earlier we showed how to use Trojan Network and LinkedIn to find alumni or people in like the position titles that you want to apply for. Career Shift essentially can do the same thing. So as you can see with an enterprise, there's 300 plus contacts, and there's a few ways to kind of go about this. The preferred method that I like to share students is going to advanced and then putting the job title that you want to apply for. Sometimes students are like, oh, I want to know who's the recruiters within this company. So instead of looking for the job search or instead of looking for the position title that they want to network with, they would sometimes just put recruiter. And if you search that, then the recruiter would show up. And if you click contact details, you have the email and the phone number of that individual. If the phone number or email is not included on here, you can actually click search LinkedIn and it will automatically search that person for you. And obviously this person is on LinkedIn, so you can connect with them either via LinkedIn, the same way that Julio just kind of taught us earlier, or messaging them via their email or even giving them a phone call. I suggest sending a message first so they're not like, who is randomly calling me in the middle of the day. But again, Career Shift is really, really helpful. I think this is probably one of the resources that a lot of students don't know about. And then when they actually do find it, this is like a gold mine of information because you can, again, both do networking and job searching at the same time. Do keep in mind that sometimes smaller companies, their contact lists are not on here. So you can find other ways to explore again via LinkedIn or whatnot, but most companies do have their employer list included on here. All right, I know that that was a lot of information, but I just kind of want to see what everyone's feeling in the chat. You can share another emoji, thumbs up, thumbs down, in terms of how to navigate Career Shift and all of the resources that Julio and I shared so far. Thumbs up. All right, perfect. And I also do want to mention, since everyone seems to be in a great spot right now, it's not just these general job search platforms that you can do this research in, but also industry industry specific job search portal. So, whatever industry that you're in, usually there is a specific job search portal just for your industry. So here's just a couple that, I've highlighted here, but if you're looking for, specifically marketing also have their own job search platforms, and you can ask ChatGPT to help you with that process as well. I am majoring in um, marketing, and looking for um, job search platforms website in my industry. Can you generate 5 to 10 websites or job search platforms? So this is more basic, but we can ask to be more specific. So this is AngelList if you're interested in marketing with tech startups, marketing hire specifically for marketing professionals. If you want to work specifically remotely. Again, these ones are more generic, but the more specific you are with the prompt that you write, the more specific ChatGPT will also, give you. All right, going back to this. So essentially that kind of covers the lamp list and the information that we want to share with you in terms of using AI for efficient networking, but also using the lamp list. So if you scan this QR code, you can actually find more resources in regards to the lamp list. So let me just send this in the chat. But on here, again, you can find and download the PDF version of like the list that we were sharing earlier. So again, having a list of the employers within this industry. Advocacy is like also stands for alumni. How many people can you network with, whether that's alumni, whether that's people within your department, or the position titles that you want to apply to. Again, motivation is how likely are you to actually apply to this company depending on your alignment with their values and, just like their work environment. And then posting is how many, job or jobs are they currently hiring for that are related to what you're looking for. So please visit this website or even download this list, but you can also tailor it the way it makes sense to you. All right. I'll go ahead and pass it back to Julio for some more information about how to start informational interviewing, but go ahead, Julio, if you want to kick us off with that.
Yeah, and I think so. There's a question, and I think this will help transition pretty good into this. So the question is, what if the alumni I want to connect is an HR in the company? Does it bring any advantages? Um, I mean, any type of communication with somebody in the company can bring an advantage, right? Because they can allow you to be noticed, show interest. I don't know how much information they can share with you, right? They still, if they're part of like the hiring board or whatever they might be, they might not be able to give you that much information, but they might still be able to have a conversation with you, perhaps about what the role entails, whatever it might be, right? But in terms of what the interview might be like, right? They might not be able to provide that. So an example for that is for this position, I reached out to the senior advisor. His name was Wes. So I reached out to him on LinkedIn, and I was curious because he was promoting his own. He was like, "They're looking to hire for my position. If you're interested, apply." So I was like scared. I was like, "How do I apply? How do I approach him?" Right? So I forgot what I said, right? But so I reached out. He said that, I'm on the board. I can't really tell you, but this is what essentially what the position is, all that stuff, right? So I at least had some information that kind of helped me maybe construct my approach to the interview, right? Maybe it helped. I'm not sure, right? But the idea is that you can't go wrong regardless if you reach out to the person who might be in the industry that you're interested in, right? So that can essentially be an advantage, you know, of having some information to not having any, right? So I don't think you could go wrong with that. So I hope that maybe answered that question. If not, we can follow up with that towards the end. And I think Ella shared and we'll share the Trojan Network link again in a little bit. So what is informational interviewing, right? So again, this is kind of a low stakes opportunity for you to have a conversation with somebody after you've done perhaps the LAMP method, right? You've kind of gotten your list in order. You're like, okay, I'm ready to go. Now it's time to see if who replied. Do I have something set up for 30 minutes with somebody, a coffee chat, a Zoom call? Do I essentially have a industry chat here on campus? Because you know how individuals come here to have these conversations with you, right? So the next piece is like, what do I say? How do I structure this, right? That can be the next hard part. So you know, we can all do this. We can use ChatGPT to help you with those questions, but then the challenge is structuring it, right? And so through Steve Dalton, so he has this LAP method, and then as well, he created this Tiara method. So on the Tiara method, and so what I'm gonna do in the chat is I'm gonna send a PDF. So please open it if you can. This will be provided as well, but it will be easier if you are able to open it up so we can walk through it right now as well. So the Tiara method, right? It's a strategic guide to help you guide the conversation, right? There are informational interviews that help you ask insightful questions, so you don't get lost when you're having these conversations. Because you could be maybe setting up these interviews or whatever they might be, and then you're like, what was I supposed to ask? I don't even know if I got the right information that I was looking for, right? So I know it's kind of small here, so that's what I'm saying. Hopefully you can download the PDF and open it so you can kind of see what it's about. It's not only one page. I think it's about 3 pages, 5 pages. And so the idea here is that it helps you, understand how you can start the conversation. Obviously, you're not going to go straight into like, well, what do you do? Like, right? You still want to be approachable. You still want to have that human side where like, you make the your small talk. How's your day been going? Have a little bit of that ice-breaking moment, right? And then you can start transitioning into the real good stuff, right? So what are you looking for? So the Tiara method is essentially helping you find what are the trends, insights, advice, the resources and assignments of this person's current position, company that they're in, right? If you are on the PDF, so on page 3, or sorry, it helps you break down each section. So within the T, which is for trends, right? One of the questions that you could simply ask is what trends are most impacting your business and field right now, right? Part of research, what is going on within the field right now? Maybe if you're in entertainment and jobs aren't easy to come by, right? Like what's going on? Maybe you didn't know about the striking union that was happening a while ago, right? So you can't see the PDF. Okay. So we'll send it. We'll send it. So I'm sorry if you can't see it right now. So don't worry about it. We'll send it. So and it's easy to follow. So for the T, right? So again, if you don't know what was going on within the entertainment industry a couple of years ago, there was a strike, right? Oh, that's why there's no job, no opportunities, right? Maybe right now within supply chain. Supply chain right now might be taking a hit because there's labor strikes. That might be disrupting certain things within that field. Oh, I think we went away. Yeah, and so each letter keeps showing you what type of questions exist, right? So within I, insights, right? This would be more of building a rapport. What's the best lesson you've learned on the job, right? So again, still asking the questions that are maybe behavioral that can help you prepare for what you want to do. Oh, thank you, Ella. So here's just kind of that breakdown, right? Of each section, each acronym word that can help you ask these questions that will help you hopefully get instructive information that would guide you along the way. If that's the company you still want to target, and 2, if that's still that the role that you want to do based on what you're hearing, right? So a lot of this is just to get that hands-on approach because yes, on paper, a job description might sound nice. You're like, yeah, that sounds good. It pays good. But what happens if you get there and it's not what you expected, right? It's better to know from the person that's in front of you, kind of how to understand the role of the company. And if you are interested in what can you do to start moving in that direction, right? Because they've already gone through it. So how can they help you grow in that respect? So if you couldn't see the PDF, I apologize. I will send this out. We'll have a follow-up email for those that follow-up email for those that attended, and we'll send this out. In the event that you can't see it when we email it, just reach out and we'll try our best to get this to you. But yeah, so I guess as we start to wrap this up, there's a couple more slides that Ella will talk about. You have your LAMP method and you have your tiara method, right? So hopefully these help you gain some structure when you're approaching this, topic. Yes, it is lengthy, as Ella's mentioned. It does take some time, but when you have more of an idea of what you're doing, you at least know how to go about it and not feel so overwhelmed, and you can go about it at your own pace, right? The sooner you do it, maybe you start as a sophomore, the better, right? But if you're my seniors, I get it, then maybe we have a better streamlined and strategic approach of how can we use this to your advantage if graduation is right around the corner, right? Oh yeah, I think Ella will have a couple more things to say and then we'll go from there.
Yes, thank you, Julio. I think CU has a question, so let me just, CU, do you wanna type that into the chat or do you wanna be unmuted? All right, you should be able to unmute yourself if you have any questions. I think we'll wait for a minute since I'm not sure if they're able to unmute, but we are gonna have Q&A at the end of this session. So, if you do want to ask any questions in the chat or the Q&A feature, feel free to drop that now, or you can also raise your hand later on once we're in our Q&A section. But as Julio mentioned, I do have a couple more slides to share with you all. All right, so we already kind of talked about this, finding the right people to interview, but again, finding those similarities and, did they attend USC? Are they applying, or are they in a role that I potentially want to apply for in the future? Do I have any student organizations or clubs that, they were also a part of? So that way you can also tailor your messages and find that like commonality or similarity that you have with like the individual. Again, the most or the easiest way is, I'm also a USC alum, or you're a USC alumni and currently studying at USC. I'd love to connect with you to learn more about, your experience working for this specific industry for this specific company. But again, you can do the same thing in regards to, oh, I see that you were a president for, this chapter within your organization. I was also part of that club in my university or here at USC. I'm curious, what your experience is in this position in this X company. So those are kind of just some ways to find like the right people to connect with. So the last thing that we just really want to share is generating some messages or outreach messages that you can use to have these informational interviews. So again, we mentioned earlier, crafting outreach messages when you are connecting with someone on LinkedIn. So when you send that ad note on LinkedIn, let's see. Let me just go back to Enterprise. And let's say here's someone I want to connect with, right? Connect and add note. I suggest adding notes because again, this will kind of help them kind of know your intentions of connecting. So you are limited to like 5 invitations per month if you don't have LinkedIn Premium. But again, one thing that I also tell students is that if you find a company, with your LAMP list, reach out to like 5 to 10 people. And if you are not able to submit a tailored message, that's also perfectly fine. Just connect with like the top 10 people that you see, and then wait for them to accept your connection. And once they've accepted your connection, you want to follow up right away within 24 hours, because that means that, okay, like even though I didn't send a tailored message to this individual, I know that they are willing to connect with me because they have accepted my request. But that also means that they are active on LinkedIn, because sometimes, again, 20% of these people might not respond to you, but that 20% who do respond means they are willing and that they are active on LinkedIn. So following up within 24 hours is really important. So let me give you an example. So this is like um, someone that I networked with. They were actually a panelist in one of the events that we've had here at the Career Center. And this is the message that I sent them. I actually used ChatGPT to just kind of help me draft this message. I mean, I typed the thing myself, but I just asked ChatGPT to like kind of work his Grammarly and just, proofread it. But this was the connection message I sent when I added the note. And then when they accepted it on Tuesday, the following day, I gave myself or I provided a more uh, specific information, or provided more information about who I am and what I'm interested in. So again, introducing myself, what I'm interested in learning more about. And then I also provided some, or an action item, which is, sometime next week, would it be possible to meet with you for a quick 10 minutes? And I already shared, my availability. The reason for this is I want to limit the amount of transactions that we have virtually, where we're not talking via phone or Zoom or in person, because they're less likely to respond to you, or that process is going to take longer if you just do one message at a time. But for that, I already introduced myself. This is what I'm intending to do or reaching out to you with. Here's my availability, let me know what works for you. And today they just went ahead and was like, thank you so much for that, book a time with me. So instead of me saying like, or asking, oh, are you available for an informational interview, they say yes. And then when I say, oh, when are you available, that's another message, that's another transaction. And then it might take an entire week just for you to schedule that meeting. But as you can see with this, method, I reached out with this individual. After they accepted it, I responded right away, introducing myself, gave my availability, was very straightforward with my intentions. And then they responded right away. And then, I followed up saying, thank you for this. I've scheduled our meeting. Looking forward for this. So again, that's one thing that you also want to keep in mind when reaching to these individuals. Again, ChatGPT will just make it easier for you in terms of tailoring those questions um, when you're doing your outreach to them. In terms of generating questions using either the questions that Julio provided with you with the Tiara method, you can also ask ChatGPT to generate some tailored questions specific to their company and their position. So you can do like, I'm doing an informational interview with a let's say product manager at Meta. What are some tailored questions I could ask this individual? I am curious about their work experience and current projects they are working on. Generate 5 to 10 questions. So again, it helps you get started, but again, these are not going to be the final questions that you ask. Again, it just kind of help with the base or foundation of the questions that you kind of want to go with in this conversation. But again, we also mentioned researching companies. If you're curious more about that, you can also do that. But one last thing that I want to highlight is following up with thank you messages, because now that you've made this initial connection, that you've reached out to these cold networking or cold contacts, you always want to follow up with a message. So after the informational interview I'll do with, John or the person that I reached out with, after that I will send a follow-up message, just kind of saying like, hi, it was great, talking with you and sharing some of the information and insights you have within this industry. I particularly, appreciate X, Y, and Z, whatever that specific conversation you've had. And again, just asking them, I'd love to stay connected with you via LinkedIn, or if you prefer another way to keep in contact. But sending that follow-up message again kind of reestablishes that connection that you have. So when you follow up again a month later, a year later, 2 years later, you can go back to this individual and say like, hi, I hope you're doing well. I've just graduated with my degree, at, whatever degree it is at USC. Last time we talked about, your experience within this company, and currently I'm in the process of applying for full-time roles within our industry. I found a job at Meta, or whatever target company that you have, and you can ask them for whatever request you're hoping. So I would suggest meeting with them again for those updates. But from here, you can kind of start asking those bigger favors, like, can you help me through my application materials, read through my resume? Do you have any suggestions? I have my cover letter, drafted. Is there any other skills that I should highlight? I'm curious, what your feedback on that is. Or, you can also ask them, would you be able to refer me to one of the recruiters? Because again, now that you've established this connection where you're just learning from these individuals, later on in your next interactions, you can be more specific about the favors that you're asking, and they are more likely to help you with those, because again, this is not your first interaction. You've already established and maintained that connection in the past. So that's pretty much what we have for you today in terms of networking and informational interviewing, and kind of leveraging ChatGPT. We do have a couple minutes, about 10 minutes for Q&A. So if you have any questions, please send them in the chat. Julio and I are going to try to answer them together. Or if you'd like to raise your hand, feel free to raise your hand, and then we'll unmute you. So let's see.
I think we have one already that is any suggestions when getting no responses from a connection?
Mhm.
Do you want to tackle it, Ella, or should I do it?
You can get started. I'll see if I can add anything to what you said.
Yeah, I think for that one, again, it's kind of gauging it too, right? Whether this person that you maybe contacted with, do you feel like it's gonna be a good match, right? Sometimes you gotta understand that it's not every time is gonna be a good match with the person you maybe make a connection with, right? So no, understanding that if they don't respond, it's just that there are individuals who aren't, as motivated to connect with individuals who are trying to find their way in, right? Another piece to the LAMP method too that you maybe can add to that is if that person has communicated with you or been active. Um, a good indicator of activity sometimes is through LinkedIn. If you find that person on LinkedIn and you go on their activity page, like, right, if they've probably the last time that they were on their shows maybe a year or 2 years ago, maybe they're not so inclined in being as involved with helping others, right? Not in a bad way. Maybe they're just, they're not in that capacity, right? So sometimes it's just knowing like who is gonna be there to help you, and you can tell usually by their response rate. So if they're not responding, just move on, right? Move on. That's what the purpose of that list is for, to like just keep you going and you don't get stuck and end up back in square one 20 times over and over again.
Yeah, exactly. And again, it's just easy to, maybe a week later they still haven't responded, and just say, hi, so and so, I'm just following up to this message that I sent earlier. I would still love to connect with you if you are free. And then, you can send that. Hopefully they respond. If they don't, again, gauge whether or not you want to keep moving forward and following up with that individual, or is it time to kind of dedicate your energy and time to someone else. But again, cast your net wide, and then from there, when you start getting those acceptances from LinkedIn, then kind of dedicate your time to those who are actually active and willing to help you. There's a question where we can find the PowerPoint today. We are gonna send a follow-up email, with all of the resources that we shared today. So keep an eye out for that. This session is also recorded, so we are gonna upload this on our YouTube channel, hopefully by the end of this week. So keep an eye out for that as well. See you. I see that you still have your hand raised. Do you have any questions that you'd like to ask? All right. If not, any other questions, feel free to send it in the chat if you have any more. If there's no more questions, we do have some announcements that we just want to share. We have some, programmings and events happening here at the Career Center that I think a lot of you guys would benefit from. So one of them is Industry Insiders. Let me just quickly have our, all right. Lauren, if you'd like to, share some information about Industry Insiders and what we have going on about that, feel free.
Great, thanks so much, Ella. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you perfectly.
Okay, wonderful. So here's our exciting Industry Insider program that is industry specific. So I know a lot of the content that you see here at the Career Center is around different topics, but we wanted to try to do a number of different sessions that would allow students to learn a little bit more about each industry's timeline and recruitment best practices. So something that we've been doing to try to help shape that are these 3 different pieces that you see up on the screen. First, we've got our industry insights, and these are actually peer-led panels from student interns in our Career Center that speak toward different industries. The idea is trying to provide a basic overview of, could you see yourself in this industry? How did they get started? What did they do while they were in school in order to prepare for that? Then that builds off of that initial knowledge with our internship SC, otherwise known as internship search clubs. And this is where we have 6 different industries broken down, and we actually have undergraduate interns who are going to share their best practices. How were they able to secure an internship and work through that process? So each of these different industries have 5 different sessions, everything from a general overview of how to approach it to what can you do for networking, informational interviewing, as well as application documents, preparing for interviews. Yes, Ella has put up on the screen this overview. Those are the introduction of our 6 different interns. And then the last thing would be discussing offers. And you'll see within this timeline, the application periods are rolling. So for the first 3 industries, between the accounting, consulting, and finance, data analysis, engineering, and tech, and then healthcare, medicine, and science, we've already kicked off on those. So if you have missed a session, do not worry. There's still plenty of content to go around. I did want to plug our upcoming networking event. So there is a peer-to-peer networking event. I am going to put something here in the chat right now so you can have access to that. But specifically with this event, it's going to be on Tuesday, October 15th. And the idea is you're going to speak with other students who have secured internships and completed those internships in those fields to learn a little bit more about how were they able to stand out in their networking, in their interview process. Were they able to then convert a internship into a full-time offer? And so we know that up until, really prior to this year, it's been a lot of programming with employers and with staff, but we wanted to take it a step further with this peer-to-peer piece. So we certainly hope that you will consider participating in it. When you do sign up for these peer-to-peer events, the first one's going to be more analytical on October 15th. And then the other one that Ella just had up specifically was then for more of the creative roles for communication, education, government, media, nonprofit. That one will be taking place in November. But we would certainly encourage you to check that out. And if you do have any other specific questions, certainly let us know. We look forward to seeing you at some of these upcoming sessions.
Thank you so much, Lauren. So again, if you guys want to find more information or register for the Industry Insiders events, feel free to scan this QR code, or again, that is available also on our website. So let me just drop that in the chat, or I think Lauren already did. But yeah, for more information, you can visit our page regarding Industry Insiders. Few more announcements. If you are, grad students, master students, or a PhD students, we do have some events coming up related to that. So both on October 16th, if you're curious about, perhaps pursuing your master's degree, we'll have the USC Graduate School Fair October 16th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. That's going to be on Truesdale. So we have some schools and programs coming in on campus, and you can again network with those individuals. So hopefully you can kind of apply some of those strategies that you learned today to that event. Same thing for the Beyond the PhD and Postdoctoral Career Conference. If you are, a PhD student, then I highly suggest that you go ahead and visit our webpage regarding that. But here's some just basic information regarding both events. The last thing I want to plug is another event that we're hosting next month. So this is Alumni Insider Tips, a graduating student's guide to job hunting. So if you are graduating this semester or this year, I suggest that you come and attend and register for this event, since we are going to be inviting recent alumni and just kind of asking them some questions about what they did and what their strategies were, or their experience in regards to job hunting these past, this in our day to day. All right, so that is pretty much all the information that we have for everyone. The last thing is just keep up to date with our events and workshops, and follow our newsletter. So here's some of our Instagram account, LinkedIn, Twitter or X, and other pages as well. So just go ahead and follow us. But again, you can reach out to me directly, or Julio, or the USC Career Center email for any other questions. But I appreciate everyone's participation today. And yes, we are right at time. So again, thank you so much, everyone. Julio, anything else?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for being here. And hopefully this helped and gave some insights into how to network a little bit more effectively.
All right. Thanks, everyone.